I think the biggest problem I see with a lot of the accounts that I tend to audit is over emailing contacts. And honestly, if I buy product A from you today, I don't want to receive an email from you every day of the week for the next 90 days. You'll lose me as a customer. I'll quickly unsubscribe and I'll just resubscribe when I want the product again. So it's really about creating a long-lasting relationship. And that sometimes comes with spreading things out, like just understanding when they're apt to engage a little bit more and just managing around them.
The customer's experience really just should be what drives everything at the end of the day. Do they want to feel like you're annoying and you're saying them the wrong thing that's not relevant to them too many times in a day? Or do they want to feel like you're their best friend? You're saying something that's helpful, relevant, useful.
Well, thanks everybody for joining. We have three incredible operators, humans, and agency leads who know e-commerce and know retention marketing better than anybody. And we're going to talk ostensibly about Klaviyo's pricing change, which people are freaking out about, but I don't think we think they should be.
Dun, dun, dun.
And, dun, dun, dun. And then some tactics around it, and the conversation is probably going to go wide. We have this blocked for an hour. There's 0% chance we make this for an hour. So 20 minutes, 30 minutes, the minute we get bored means we're probably like 5 minutes too late of you all getting bored. So hopefully this is all right and useful. But let me get out of the way, and I'm just going to ask each of you for quick intros, both yourself and your background, how you got into commerce and into running your agency, and then candidly a little bit about your agency. There are a lot of people who are always, like folks are looking, and this is a huge market, and having three people who are ostensibly competitors be excited to chat together to learn from each other. Like, it's a huge market out there. So would love for you each to share just a little bit about your agency. Peyton, because I suckered you into doing this LinkedIn Live first, I'm giving you the honors, and then Gabrielle, and then Lenin.
Thank
Please.
you.
Yeah, don't mess up. Start us off.
Oh, yeah. No sweat. Hi, everybody. My name is Peyton Fox. I own SparkBridge Digital. So a bit of background on myself. Kind of fell into email marketing in a nonprofit. So originally was just there, hands in everything, social, email, all of that, and really fell in love with email marketing. From there, kind of moved into a few different e-commerce brands, working in-house on marketing teams, and then officially decided to break off, do my own thing, and work one-on-one with a variety of brands. So that is kind of the infancy of how SparkBridge got started, just me consulting, working one-on-one with different e-commerce brands. But my specialty does really lie in helping e-com brands scale their email, design beautiful emails, find opportunity for some really smart segmentation strategy. Just optimizations galore is kind of our go-to piece. So we work with really any type of e-commerce brand just looking to scale with their email. And I would say like 98% of our clients are on Klaviyo. So this is definitely a huge topic right now. So yeah, that's me.
That's perfect. Thank you. Gabrielle, please.
Hey, y'all. My name is Gabrielle Pittman. I am the Client Strategy Director at eBusiness Pros. I got into marketing actually by accident. It was just a day job to fund a record while I was a musician in a past life. So I have a background in storytelling, and that ended up becoming very useful as a marketer. And a lot of the brands that we work with, there's always range. There's always bigger brands, smaller brands, whatever. But my personal favorite are the ones that are boutique luxury ateliers or like family-owned heritage brands. So they often place a higher priority on storytelling. And through working with them, I gained a real appreciation for how email and automation can actually become proactive customer service. And when you marry marketing with customer service, it helps that sales process become so much more conversational and natural. So that's what really got me hooked on email. Of course, there are other channels now that you can do that, like direct mail, SMS. But eBusiness Pros has been in the e-commerce space since 2000. Our founder sent his first Black Friday email in like 96. So we've been doing this a long time, and we've decided that Klaviyo is the best platform to be working with. And so we've niched down, and our retention focuses on that platform.
I love it. I've had the pleasure of spending time with the founder, and it's been very eye-opening and insightful. And it's awesome to talk about like the history of things. So it's great. Thank you.
That's great to hear.
Lenin, last, arguably not least, it's unclear. We'll suss this out by the end of the call, but please.
Sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Lenin. So I got into this by first starting a brand, Sprezza Box, that this was in 2014. It was a subscription box business where we send men's clothing attire, ties, socks, pockets, squares. It grew pretty sizable. It got to tens of thousands of active customers. And in there was pretty much my experience where most of it came from e-commerce. So I was very technically focused at the moment. So I built a lot of the back end piece to it. This was early on when Shopify was really like a new thing. Klaviyo was also at its infancy. So a lot of our tech stack didn't really talk to each other. It was just us kind of crazy gluing, MacGyvering, something to work together. So this is where I got really in depth into the Klaviyo documentation, the APIs, building that backend, making sure that things communicated. We worked with a numerous amount of agencies. There was some great talent out there, but we never felt that things were being done exactly the way we wanted to. So we ended up bringing that in-house, where we ran a design team and we did email strategy and kind of led most of it, where we mainly had somebody from an agency provide us some advice. In there, I learned a lot. We eventually sold that business. I pivoted more towards, I guess, helping other companies kind of transition to retail. I mean, not retail, from retail to e-commerce during the COVID phase. And then that eventually morphed into an email strategy agency. Klaviyo is our most beloved I guess, brand that we work with, just because they really are open. They really make a lot of bringing data in, sending data out. It's easy to work with. So it gives me the right tools for us to use. As for my agency, we're a small boutique agency. We used to work at a previous place and then we spun off. But we're a small boutique agency with the intention of really focusing a lot on quality as opposed to quantity. So I really try to make sure that both our account manager and the brands that we work with really match up with each other and try to provide that level of detail that I would love if I were a brand owner, and when I did. But yeah, that's kind of sums it up for us.
Per usual, this is where my team's like, hey, you're on mute. Stop being an idiot. So I go on mute a lot because, there are noises. Lenin, thanks. That's awesome. Super quick background on me. Ran a brand starting in 2010. Sold it, not a great outcome, but very cool for the brand to still exist. It was kind of like that early vintage of Shopify brands that did great, and then all the other ones kept doing great, like the Bombas and the Warbies, and then I was like, so a lot of lessons learned that I can share, and then just been in commerce tech for a long time. Started co-founded a company called Passport that does globalization and international shipping for a bunch of D2C brands, and was the president at Loop Returns, and very happy to be one of the co-founders of Arita. I won't talk much about what we do. That's not the point, but help brands get the most out of their Klaviyo TL. There's kind of the TLDR, and we work with these three agencies and a bunch of others. All right, I'm gonna jump in. Actually, want to start, and Lenin, I'm gonna start with you, just kind of, and then we can just. Not everybody, this needs to answer each question. If you've got something great to say it. If not, but if you think about the space right now, last week, Klaviyo announced their new pricing. Right, they announced it to us all a couple days earlier before they made it public. And there's for lack of a better term, there's a lot of fear. It's oh my God, the price is going up. What should we do? And all this is going on. I'm curious for you, what are some of your clients' biggest fears? And let's just start with that, because I kind of want to get everything out on the table, and then we can kind of break it down. But then obviously Peyton, Gabrielle, if you have anything else you want to add, please do. But Lenin, to start with you.
Sure. So I guess the initial message that everyone received is just shocking, because you do think your prices are going to go up. And, there are some brands that we work with that have 4 times, 5 times the number of contacts on their list as the ones that we're emailing now. So those are the ones that would see the biggest shift if they continue with that same strategy. But luckily, like you said, we heard about this a few days before. So the first thing I did was just go in there, start creating segments to really showcase who exactly is active, who exactly is not active. And then once we started getting on calls with these clients, they actually responded very well, because it became very clear that, if you do this right, if you do email marketing right, you are most likely already focusing on a certain small group of people and not the full list. The days of batch and blast are pretty much over.
That was my approach on Mailchimp 15 years ago.
Exactly. That used to work back then.
Say that.
It was great. I thought, I just thought, hey, this one extra email Gabrielle's finally going to click. She's going to love it. This is the winner. So
So yeah, I mean, it became very simple. It basically showcased that like, hey, here are the ones that we're emailing. Here are the ones where most of the revenue comes from. We had the data to prove it. Where we say if we just focus on this particular group, that already accounts for 95% of the revenue you would see from the email marketing channel. So the other 5% is where we kind of need to figure out. These are people who might be unengaged, might be at a different phase in their interaction with the business, and we have to discuss, do we want to suppress them? Do we want to bring them back? At the end of the day, it ended up being a smaller revenue change, a smaller cost to Klaviyo than they anticipated. So it ended up being pretty interesting. And then from there, I actually had a number of clients come back to us and ask us, hey, could we actually save more money than what we were doing if we go ahead and remove some of these contacts that you had identified already? So they see this more as an opportunity as opposed to something that's a little bit concerning to them.
I like it. Thank you. Gabrielle, I want to put you on the spot. I think it was you. It might have been you, Peyton, but I think it was you, about saying like one of your brands had tried to move very quickly and like you had some thoughts about that and like some of the risks. Is it worth kind of double clicking on that right now? Like switching from Klaviyo?
I would say that the biggest, most fundamental thing is to not panic. I've seen a lot of clickbait lately, and I just personally am kind of amazed at how many people have decided to go stir the pot in that way, because it doesn't actually help anyone. It doesn't help any brand that's using Klaviyo getting good value from it. So one of my clients actually, they didn't try to migrate from Klaviyo, but it's just the lesson of poor migrations in general. They decided just before COVID, actually, that they were going to migrate off their existing e-commerce platform. They got acquired. They were given supposedly a really great deal. They were going to save a bunch of money, which the CEO was like, great. And they went through this supposedly free migration process. Every single month, something in that store broke. It was an integration. It was a page. It was not talking well to Klaviyo, not playing nice to Klaviyo. It was just one problem after the other. And all their customer data was completely locked up. And whether you're choosing between an email platform or e-commerce platform, the ability to access your data and use it is critical. So it ended up being a very painful 2-3 year process where they delayed this decision to consider migrating again. And eventually they decided, okay, this is killing our business. We're going to go to Shopify. But they could have skipped all that pain in the first place had they just chosen a tool that was supposedly more expensive, but actually more reliable, more functional, better ROI. Like, it might be unusual, but a lot of my clients have had no panic to the pricing change because they just know that Klaviyo is worth it.
That's great. You just haven't told them you're keeping it a secret? No, just kidding.
Well, they know it's worth it, but also I think it's important to be aware of what active profiles really means. It's amazing to me how many times I go into a new client's account and I see, whoa, they've been emailing which segments or not segmenting at all, and they're wondering why their engagement is low. So I think this is a really important, just necessary pain for people to realize, okay, we need to get clear on who we should be sending to, who we should not, and when it's also important to leverage another channel besides email and SMS.
Yeah, we're gonna double click on both of those, both like the segmentation side and then also the other channels as well, which I think is super interesting. Peyton, any other fears that your customers are bringing or that you're bringing on behalf of your customers? Like, where's your mind go?
Well, I will say to also kind of echo what Gabrielle said, but like I think brands may underestimate the long-term cost or even just the migration cost itself, like how many features you realize other platforms just don't have, like, or don't do the same way. So you're going to have to rebuild it. You're going to have to do all these things separate. Like the cost of that versus getting your list clean. Come on, get your list clean. Okay, come on.
I hear you.
But no, I would say a lot of my clients, I felt like I had to do a little bit of like catch up, like, hey, I'm already on it. We know it's changing, don't worry, already got the segmentation going. So I think a lot of brands have been comfortable keeping everybody in there. And it's like, let's see if they come back. Sure, we're not emailing them, but we're keeping our bill kind of below, what technically we should be paying for, which is what we're kind of going towards. So it's like, I feel like a lot of brands knew, like, okay, we knew this whole group of people, we haven't even been emailing them. They've just been sitting there anyways. Like, who are these people? And let's like tap into it further. So now we're kind of just in that next stage of like, okay, how can we get more strategic? Who are these people we haven't emailed? And 120 plus days. Who is this group? Why? And maybe there's some life in there, and maybe there's some re-engagement that we can start spilling out. Or truly we have, maybe there was, I think this is a common trend. A lot of brands I think might have this issue, but doing giveaway partnerships, doing, list shares, things like that are just like bogging down your list. They're completely unengaged. They don't even know who you are. They shouldn't be there,
Come on, lifters used to be so much fun. This is like the Wild West. It was terrible always.
So now it's, I think, again, not surprising, I think, for a lot of brands, but still the concerns there of like, okay, what's next? And I think a lot of brands are in that space of like, I don't want to completely purge my list. Like, how can I go about it strategically? It's kind of that next step.
All right. So 2 maybe useless points, but that I'm going to make. And then I want to dive deeper specifically into tactics. And then Peyton, I saw all of you guys have posted about this. And like Peyton, I was watching a YouTube video that you did the other day that like kind of goes through a different segment. So we'll figure out a way to like share resources afterwards, but like we don't want this just to be high level. There's actually tactics that you guys are doing with your brands that we're going to share. The first one is Klaviyo's capped the price increase. So like the pricing was always in my eyes, like slightly obfuscated. Like some brands were actually at a tier way higher than they needed to be. I actually think this is good because it's just very black and white. Like there shouldn't be any questions asked. And they've capped the price increase at a reasonable growth for like a great tool, right? Mm-hmm. We are like agnostic, Arita, myself personally, like I know that many of the other email providers, there are like awesome tools out there. So this isn't like Klaviyo the best, somebody else, but specifically within Klaviyo, they've capped it, they've made it black and white. I think the other point that like seems to get lost as people are freaking out about this is like, you don't sign up to Klaviyo to save money. Same way you wouldn't sign up for Yappo Mail or Braze or Attentive. Like your goal should not be, how do I shrink my bill? Because if you want to shrink your bill, just don't send email, right?
It's like your electricity. Are you going to stop paying for that utility just
it's
because
like
it goes up with you?
Yeah.
That's right. But it's also just like, it's the wrong optimization. The optimization is profitable growth, right? And like when we started Arita, it was very funny because people are like, how does Klaviyo feel about you? How does Iterable? How do these other guys think about you? Because the first couple of months of working with us, like normally a company's bill goes down a little bit. I assume analogous to you guys. And it's because people oversend. They do what I used to do. Yeah, Gabrielle's definitely going to click this email, even though all the data says like 0% chance, right? She may not even exist, right? It might have been a bot. But like our goal as we talk about it, like very explicitly, is we want to double your Klaviyo bill in a year because it's so performant, because you're sending more emails, but to the right people to drive more sales. And I think like anybody who's in this ecosystem should be thinking about profitable growth first, and then what are the ways to get there? It's working with great partners, right? It's like being thoughtful about your content. It's building amazing products. But it's not just, let's go save money. Like it is very rare. I saw this at Loop, which was like a higher priced product, but like a premium product and works extremely well for brands. Like you either opt in and you're like building your business or you're not. And I think that's probably like maybe a silly framing, but an important one. Lenin, I want to go to you actually and jump in maybe more technically, right? Can you talk a little bit about using Klaviyo's APIs? Like I think this is going to go very technical and then we can step back a little bit. But like the spirit of how you think about this, what problems you're solving and what you can actually do once you start to get into the back end of Klaviyo.
So I like to deep dive into data. And part of that is Klaviyo has a CDP aspect to it. It connects very well with a lot of the tech stack, Shopify, and a few of these other platforms. So there's a lot of data coming into it. So how can we leverage that data in a way that's automatic? I don't want to just throw people into a bucket and say, hey, these 100,000 people need to be suppressed all at once and treat them all the same. Because we know in reality, there's different values to each one of these users. So that's really where it comes into play, where if we can create segments behind the scenes, just giving different, I guess, rankings to each of these users, can we use something with Klaviyo that would allow us to suppress or unsuppress users based on whether we think they're going to be valuable in the near future. So that's a lot of the strategies that I've been taking, like that I've been kind of trying to implement since we got this announcement. I think the main one, for example, is if we know that a person is in a purchase cycle that is very long, like let's say like a jewelry client who might have a customer who buys maybe once a year for like anniversaries or things like that, does it make sense to them to send emails at like day 180 or 270, or do you want to wait until the full year? So that's where we can create a segment saying, hey, if a person has not engaged with us in a given time period, let's just suppress them temporarily. And, maybe we send a few flows in between, but there's Klaviyo's API system, which allows you to do this well behind the scenes. So you can create webhooks inside of Klaviyo flows that can communicate back with Klaviyo and say, hey, this customer needs to be suppressed. So if you do this right, what you could end up doing is using segments back and forth to suppress and unsuppress contacts all over the place. It has to be strategically done. I actually am going to talk to Klaviyo to see if there's a way to make this a little bit easier, because it does require API, it does require a little bit of technical knowledge. I'm pretty sure they could just make a little, like similar to how we update profile settings, where you should just be able to say a person should be suppressed or remove the suppression if they were manually suppressed before. But if done right, then you can unsuppress a person, let's say, when it's time to do their 1 year like purchase anniversary, instead of just keeping them there for an entire year. I'm more concerned about clients permanently suppressing users as opposed to just, like I want to be proactive about this, because I think where this is going to go wrong is that people are going to say, hey, if you haven't engaged in the last 180 days or whatever the time period is, let's just throw you into this bucket and then we'll never reach out to you again. And that's the wrong strategy. That's where you're going to lose revenue behind the scenes, and there's opportunity there. So knowing when to contact them back and finding a way to doing this automatically is where I'm trying to deep dive into. Ori is part of this piece, obviously. But yes, I'm still trying to leverage as much as we can inside of Klaviyo's help.
I love it.
If I could double tap on that real quick.
Oh, yeah, please.
So a lot of the brands I work with have that long purchase cycle that Lenin described. And it is a continuous challenge of how do you define someone as engaged or not when they may be spending $13,000 on a single item and they're probably not going to buy that more than once a year or maybe twice a year. And so the segmenting matters, but also using the right channel really matters. I have a lot of brands I come in contact with where, especially in that SMB space, they think, oh, well, they're our customers. They're our most loyal, engaged people. We need to tell them everything all the time. And it's just really harming them more than helping them. So knowing that if you have a segment of people, like not everyone wants to receive your emails or your SMS messages. So leveraging the integration ecosystem of Klaviyo is so helpful. You can send a postcard with a personal touch at that higher value level, or even for a CPG brand. Like there are ways to use the data that you have within Klaviyo without putting them all into this bucket of active profiles that need to receive digital messages, or, like they can go for ad targeting. They can do so many different things.
I love it. I want to double click on Postpilot. There's like paper on, there's a bunch. Actually, the call with, I think it's called Modern Postcard, like an older line business, but like direct mail is so undervalued right now. And especially for like a higher AOV product, not to mention if somebody's unsubscribed from your email, guess what? You can still send them a postcard, or like some people may see all your emails and that's just not the channel through which they buy. So we actually started building our like kind of data-driven direct mail product literally for these reasons. Gabrielle, as long as we're talking about this, when you think about like direct mail as like a complement, do you think about it as like either or you advise your clients like do an email and then direct mail? Or I don't know, like how do you think about other channels for your brands?
It depends a lot on the brand, and it also depends a lot on the health of their list. And so that's where I think part of my kind of core frustration with the alarmist reactions to this pricing change is it's causing so much panic and agitation that's entirely unnecessary. And we don't want what Lenin described, where brands go and overly suppress because they're so worried about the bill. Like what really matters is your return on what you're spending. And so for some of my clients, they're actually right now overpaying for Klaviyo and they'll start saving money. So there's that piece to it, but it's also with the postcard, to some extent, this is a controversial take in the email marketing space. So many brands send way too many emails. And so postcards are a really great opportunity to break through that noise. Go around the inbox entirely and just go, hey, we know you want to shop with us. Go place an order, and then our transactional email will come to the top of your inbox.
Yeah.
Or in cases where maybe they just need a little bit more time to think about something, you send them like an abandoned cart email, and then you follow up later with a postcard. So
I love it.
Everything has a lot of nuance to it, but I think at the end of the day, it's what's right for your brand.
Yeah.
What's going to be profitable for your brand, because technically in some ways postcards are more expensive than email, but also how many SMS messages are you sending in a month?
Only like 500 times more expensive, but
I think it comes down to the right message to the right person at the right time.
Here's the thing. I'm with you. I think the thing that like, it's always like, you'd rather have somebody buy with no message because they love your brand. And then it's like, okay, email's next cheapest. And then it's a text. And then if you're going to do a postcard, the thing that we found is like, just make sure to do holdout groups and really deeply understand, not did you get somebody to buy because of the postcard, but did you get them to buy because of the postcard? And they literally would not have bought because of any of the other channels you can hit them up with. And then it is an awesome channel. So like,
And that's where Rita's so helpful.
good answer. No, but like, no, I mean, like, you don't need, like, we are good at that, but it's the same principle, right? Like, we're talking to brands who are just like figuring out themselves. Just always be thoughtful about that holdout. Peyton, you've been waiting very patiently. I would love for you to walk through like, and you can maybe like ping pong off of some of Lenin's points or just go down whatever path you want. Like when you think about segmentation, if you had like a couple of minutes right now to tell people who are like, again, stressed about this, and you're not telling them a forever decision, but what's the first thing or first couple of things you would do for a brand owner or for another marketer with their lists?
Yeah, not to do a shameless plug, but check out my YouTube video.
No, it's actually good. I didn't think it was gonna.
I watched it this morning.
Yeah,
oh my
there
goodness.
it is. Right?
Well, I think because I do feel like there are some brands that probably are on Klaviyo, and even though we might say, some of them do sweat, that extra $300 a month. Like, they're just really trying to figure out like, okay, if I have to start somewhere with suppressions, where do I start? And I think if you're one of those brands and you just want to kind of like, okay, figure out who on my list really is dead weight, and that also has layers to it. But if you've emailed them, and you can figure out what that quantity is, but multiple times we've had no opens, no clicks, no abandoned cart, no placed order, no active on site, no review left, no loyalty joined. They've literally done zilch with your brand that you can see within your Klaviyo. Start there. And that might be a really small group. It might just be, 300 profiles, and you feel comfortable enough to mark them, suppress it if you want to, or you just want to see, like, can I re-engage them, give them one more test? Like, you as a brand can really figure out how you want to tackle deciding when it's the right time to suppress people. But if you had to start somewhere, this is what I call just like those omega coldies on your list, but like true, fully unengaged, like no interest in your brand whatsoever. But that doesn't mean, again, like we were talking about with direct mail is something that I have personally not explored, but has come up multiple times with other clients now where
I might just be an old, but it is awesome. I literally bought a rug from Revival Rugs because they hit me up and I was like, oh, I cannot believe I just bought because of the mailer. But it like hit me at the time I wanted with a great image and a simple offer. And it was just like, it's sitting on my counter. It's not like in my inbox or in spam or like, it was there. Anyway, sorry.
I love a postcard.
And I think too, like, I think too with like that. So if you are a brand that wants to start and just like, okay, I got to cut down the fat somewhere, I'll start here. Don't lose track of those people. So I think too, like, say you build these suppression segments, these layers of unengagement, you can create the opposite of that. They cannot receive email marketing and they have come back on site. They actually did just abandon their cart, but didn't opt into marketing technically to come back in. Like maybe there's other segments you can still build in Klaviyo to keep a pulse on them, to figure out, because if you can't build an API or you don't have an awesome app like Arita, like the manual part of it is going to require some work, but you don't want to lose touch on those people. They may come back. You never know. So having those kind of suppression specific segments haven't really been a big thing, but I think are going to be much more important going into the year now.
I love it.
If I could add to that. Yeah. So obviously I'm big with the data part to this. This is where, yes, if you do create a segment of suppressed users that is quite sizable and you're just unsure whether you want to re-engage them or not, test it. Just create a small snapshot of it. If you have 100,000 profiles within a list, create maybe 10,000, bring them back, test the waters with them, and that'll give you a good determination as to whether it's valuable to re-engage with the other remaining 90,000. So it's really about segmentation and testing. I'm actually asking my clients to not just give me a set budget, like, hey, this is the active profiles, like give me a little bit of wiggle room so that way I can test the waters behind the scenes, whether it's 10%, 50%, whatever they're comfortable with. That way we can kind of play within that range. And if I have a gut feeling, knowing their calendar, seeing what their marketing strategy is, then I'll go ahead and use that opportunity to re-engage with some segments that we might have not otherwise have included.
I love it. I was thinking about what you were talking about earlier. And like, honestly, this is a conversation like all four of us have had at different points. But you talked about the API side and you talked about like, hey, bringing people back. And now you're talking about testing. One of the things that we think a lot about, I'm curious for your guys' perspective, is like, you can go do a killer analysis of like what the right engagement window is. And, you kind of made the point, what if you're a jewelry brand and your buying cycle is 360 days? Or you're a rug company and it might be 720 days, or one of our customers is a contact lens company. You certainly, and it's like a 5-year buying cycle, you certainly don't email somebody every day for 5 years. So it's like, well, when do you probe? Is it 18 months? Is it 36 months? How do you do this? Something we think a lot about is we could build literally the best model in the world today. Like the four of us could go be like, cool, brand X, here's who they should email. But tomorrow, we're a day further from Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or a day closer to a new sale, or they're launching a new product. This is a problem that like we've not solved, but like we think a lot about is like, that's why we build a fresh model every single day. And like, we only work with brands who have a real history, because then we see kind of like the fingerprint of the brand. How do you guys, and anybody's open to take this, or you can tell me this is a stupid question and I won't be offended. Like, how do you think about like how frequently to refresh who's engaged, who's unengaged? If you're going to talk about testing, how quickly or how often do you test? Like, is it when there are big changes to the business? Is it 4 times a year? Does that make sense? Like, I don't know a better way to ask, but any one of you is a little open to jump in, please.
Yeah, I tend to do it based on their marketing calendar. If we know that they have certain periods of the year or they tend to have more in sales or they tend to have more engagement, I kind of center it around that. Obviously, trying to test the waters, maybe a few weeks, a few months, depending on what type of strategy we're doing. Like, for example, right now, if this were going to affect, we will be doing a lot of the Valentine's Day testing before some of the Valentine's Day messaging is coming up front. So you can see historical if we have that data and then kind of base it off of that. But it's good to just randomly test, because sometimes you just don't know. You can have an understanding of what the perfect profile is, but at the end of the day, there's a value to every type of like cohort that you can have, and understanding that and how you can use that throughout the year is really important. So you can go ahead and do some sort of analysis, like, back of the napkin analysis, where you can just say, hey, if I test the waters with this group and this one returns a 2x multiple on any spend, then why not open it up, or, just do that thing over and over, and it'll probably work out. Yeah.
I like it. I mean, it's effortful, but if you can do it, do it. Like, I think that's spot on. Peyton, Gabrielle, anything else there, or else I can kind of change topics slightly?
No, I mean, I agree. I feel like pretty much any time with a client we have, and it's so different, like, sure, Black Friday, but maybe they have an anniversary sale or have something like that. I always have those kind of evergreen segments of like, this person took action during event A and action during event B, and like keeping a tab on that. So, I mean, similar to what Lenin said, like figuring out that marketing calendar, where were those big events, launches, big sales, big pushes, and keeping those in mind. Because you definitely don't want to have like a group that you consider unengaged when technically, like the only time they ever engage is when it's time to shop on Black Friday, and that's it. So you don't want to necessarily purge them from your account, right away, so yeah.
We talk a lot about like, if it's September 30th and somebody shows like moderate engagement, but there's a risk of unsubscribing, and you're certain within 4 weeks, 6 weeks in that case, they're going to be like super duper engaged. Sometimes it's just worth not emailing them, right? And we talk about this, and I don't think we figured out the right phrasing, but like, we never want somebody to optimize a send. We want them to optimize a program. And I know you guys, like, as strategic folks, obviously think this way, but I definitely run into this with some customers where they're like, hey, we just need number to go up. Like, this week's email needs to perform better than last week's. And I'm like, but what if this week's could perform quote unquote worse, but then in a month you could make 2x more money? I think with this new clear pricing, I actually think there will be more discussion around like, how do we get the most out of our program because people will be much more fine-tuned into like, I don't know. That's my hope, at least. I don't know. I'm saying anything, but yeah.
No, you're right. I think Peyton kind of mentioned this, that I think the biggest problem I see with a lot of the accounts that I tend to audit is over emailing contacts, and honestly, if I buy product A from you today, I don't want to receive an email from you every day of the week for the next 90 days. You'll lose me as a customer. I'll quickly unsubscribe and I'll just resubscribe when I want the product again. So it's really about creating a long-lasting relationship, and that sometimes comes with spreading things out, like just understanding when they're up to engage a little bit more and just managing around that. So
I love it.
yes, right before Black Friday, it tends to be calm. Everybody's waiting for the Black Friday sale.
Yes.
Do you really need to email them every day if
Yeah.
they know that you're gonna sell something, in a few weeks? So
I think that's like also true if you have a new product line coming out soon. Like, don't create excuses for people to unsubscribe by sending them saying that they don't want to hear. Like, message when they want to hear it. Gabrielle, I feel like I cut you off though. You had something you wanted to chime in with. Go ahead.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
The customer's experience really just should be what drives everything
Yeah.
at the end of the day. And
With
that's
you.
part of why I say that so many brands send too many emails, and also why that customer service perspective really needs to be attuned to what you're doing in marketing, because excluding the right people is just as important as including and targeting the right people in your sends. And so at the end of the day, your segmentation strategy is going to shift, but what should be guiding that at the core is the content. And one thing that my team has particular expertise in is working with brands that never offer discounts ever. Like zero.
Great.
And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. So we also work with brands that send discounts. They have a site with a sale that literally never ends. And then we say the sale's ending soon. And in the back of my head, I'm like, we need to find different messaging for that because it really doesn't work. And so, as they've worked with us longer, we've gotten them to come around to just be like, okay, let's be honest. Let's not say it's ending soon, but let's say, hey, you want it before it goes out of stock, things like that. So at the end of the day, it's about the experience of a customer interacting with your brand. Do they want to feel like you're annoying and you're saying them the wrong thing that's not relevant to them too many times in a day? Or do they want to feel like you're, as Peyton actually really brilliantly described it last year in this content piece that we created, like you're their best friend. You're saying something that's helpful, relevant, useful. And so whether you're retargeting them with an ad or sending them an email, how you choose to suppress or prioritize people, like sometimes your most loyal customers actually just need some breathing room. You got to just hold off. And then if you have a really particular, interesting, like one jewelry brand I work with is a lovely silver, gold, gemstone, Western accessories brand. And they ended up having a partnership with several country music celebrities this past year. And I'll protect their privacy for now, but it was an extraordinary special story that needed to be told. And so that's something that goes to everyone, regardless of engagement in the last 30 days. But, within reason, we're going to exclude people where appropriate. And so that's an example of where you time things around the content, not just the sale.
I love it. We talk all the time about like take off your email marketer hat and put on your consumer hat, and don't be the brand that annoys you. Like, be the brand that's timely and interesting. And like, yes, your best, like whatever it is appropriate for the brand, but like message the person when they want to hear from you. Okay. Peyton, I wanted to ask you quickly if you have thoughts on like cycling through contacts and hitting active profile, like more tactically. How are you thinking about that with your brands right now? And then I'll have one more question. I think we can probably wrap at that point. But
so I would say, actually, also to kind of tap on the segmentation piece alongside that. So as we're talking about suppressing people, I think we should be talking about what audiences are we actually not even tapping into that we should have been. So I think the trend, especially with the noise in the inbox, like Gabrielle, like you were saying, like people sending so many emails to batch and blast or treat everybody the same is just, I think it's been a trend moving forward, but I think in 2025, it's just like the trend across the board. Like if I bought a certain, for example, a skincare brand we work with, I bought a very specific device in topical. If you're going to continue to email me and try to sell me on a second device when I never really would buy one, or you send a follow-up and you're not featuring imagery of that device or that topical I bought, like you got to move toward basically being hyper-targeted, hyper-segmented. So when you are sending more campaigns maybe to very smaller, hyper-targeted groups, especially in Klaviyo, using dynamic blocks, show hide features, things like that. So that way you're creating a very curated experience, people will pay attention when you email them.
I like it.
When you treat them like everybody else on the list, they're kind of getting the same thing, sales ending, like even though I bought, 2 months ago, don't need another device. But being able to figure out how you can strategically send really curated messages, that's where you're going to unlock better click-through, better engagement, better lifetime value for your subscribers. So
This is great. Okay.
Just one last thing.
Yeah, go.
There are a lot of SMBs out there where they hear what we've been talking about, particularly what Peyton just said, and they go, oh my God, that sounds so hard to implement. So flows are your friend.
yes.
Build out the personalization in an automated way so that you know it's going to go to the right person and you don't have to be creating that content every time. Because like to have a personalized campaign is for some people more difficult, especially if you have limited resources with content creation. So flows will really help with that.
I love it. That's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, there's always a question of the sophistication of the brand, the buying cycle of the brand's customers, how much, what your budget is, yada yada. But yes, flows all day, every day. Okay. Maybe a last question, and then I'll open up for last words. I want to stop talking about Klaviyo specifically for a minute. You guys all run baller agencies, have work with some of the coolest brands. What are some other pieces of tech that you're looking at? Because if folk, I don't know who's listening, maybe nobody, my mom, she doesn't run an e-commerce brand, but maybe she will one day. I don't know, you guys see all the newest stuff. What are some new pieces of technology or new software providers? Or it doesn't have to be tech. It could just be new tactics that you see that are really interesting. Yeah, please. And you don't have to be vetting in and saying it's the best, but you're even intrigued by. So I want to lower the bar here.
Well, I think so. I started to dive into this more, but utilizing interactive AMP emails is definitely kind of that new buzzword piece. People being able to do actions within the email, submit reviews within the email, skip their subscription, add more products, shopping within your email, I think is a big piece that I'm loving. An app in particular, Zaymo, Zaymo, is one that I've been using for clients. That's really, really easy to use and honestly a super awesome team too. I bug them all the time with I want to do this, and they're like, okay, let's work on it. But it makes AMP emails accessible for everyday brands, because if you do want to get into these interactive emails, it could be this whole coding experience, way more complicated. Brands really can't. I mean, it's a whole dedicated email expert for building those types of messages. So it makes it really accessible for brands to experiment with interactive emails. So that's one I'm loving.
That's great.
I just wrote that one down.
Yeah, same.
Written down. Gabrielle, Lenin, anything else you guys want to chime in with?
Obviously, getting data into Klaviyo just gives you more opportunity to segment better and understand your user activity. So all of these identification tools, Blot-Out, Elevar, Black Crow come to mind. Those are more important now, just because if you're only tracking opens and clicks and using that to determine your engagement, then it's not good enough. It's that opens and clicks are blurry right now, especially with a lot of the Apple privacy changes that have been happening. So you really want to track as much data as possible from every source that you can. So just making sure that that's integrated. And the last piece is Webula, which is a list cleaning tool. So that one is just, you want to maintain good list health. There are many reasons why a person should be permanently removed from your list. They have a pretty robust system that checks for many, many data sources. So it's it can be a little bit costly, less than a penny per email. So if you have hundreds of thousands of users, it adds up to thousands of dollars, but it will save you more along the grand scheme of things, and help with deliverability too.
I think there's if you have a list that's this big, I don't know where my camera starts or stops, but if it's this big, there's the chunk that should be permanently removed, which is it's a bot. Cool. Get rid of it. And then there's a chunk that should be temporarily removed that we were talking a lot about. And it's getting wise about that and then cycling those people through in a data-driven way with segment, whatever, right? Based on some activities is important. Lenin, the other one, obviously revenue roll, which we've talked about.
Yes,
the thing I like about what you were just talking about with those providers is it's just more data and not definitionally better, but it's because of Klaviyo, you can actually go and take actions based on that and set up flows based on that. And so, Peyton, you kind of mentioned before, it's did somebody click yesterday? But I think in passing, you're did somebody leave a review? That also shows that they're engaged. And the more of those actions that you can bring in, again, that's what we think a lot about is cool. How do we go find the unseen like what people think is a needle in the haystack, there's actually like a ton of needles. So like you just got to go figure out the clever ways to find them. All right, Gabrielle, any other technology that you want to chime in with? And it's A-okay if not.
I think you found that we're a group that has a lot of ideas. It's hard to keep us quiet. But I would say for a brand that is considering doing a giveaway, you want to make sure you have the box data to work with so that you get the maximum retention on that new list of subscribers you're about to bring into your Klaviyo account. So there's a tool called Gatsby that makes it really super easy to collect those giveaway entries through Instagram. Like giveaways are actually pretty painful, and Gatsby makes it not painful, both for the team running the giveaway and for the people entering. And then once you get that connection set up, you just have this evergreen stream of data where if someone's interacting with your social media posts, you can see that in Klaviyo and send them an email appropriately. I would say also just last thing is if a brand is concerned about their tech stack and billing, they're maybe an SMB and they're worried about costs, make sure your Klaviyo Shopify integration is updated so that you can use the native Klaviyo server-side tracking, because that's going to be very helpful.
Cool. Thank you. All right. I said we would maybe make it to 20 minutes. We made it to 46-ish. So I'm very proud of this group. Thank you for your time. I love just last word from each of you. And the last word could be like, here's where to find me, right? Or it could be, here's where to find me. And here's the last thought I have that I didn't get to spit out because Aaron didn't ask me a question. So I'm going to call you Peyton, Gabrielle, and then Lenin, you're going to bring us home. Last words. Peyton, you're first.
Last words, check me out, sparkbridgedigital.com. If you're on YouTube, Peyton Fox, email marketing, have tons of tutorials, Klaviyo tutorials, email marketing strategy tutorials, things like that. And if you ever want to ping me on LinkedIn and they're like, hey, how do you do this? Be great if you do a video, let me know. I'd love to make it. That's me.
I'm just going to leave you a recommendation on LinkedIn. That's really going to blow up everything. Thank you. That was perfect. All right, Gabrielle, you're up.
All right. Well, the best place to find me and my team is at ebusinesspros.com. You can find me on LinkedIn under Gabrielle Pittman. Twitter, just search Gabrielle Pittman because my username is going to be too complicated to spell out here right now. But I post a lot of content around copywriting and email segmenting. Those are two areas that I particularly nerd out over. And there's a article I wrote for Feature Commerce that maybe Aaron can send in the post-event recap that helps give really good perspective on how you choose the right brand to do a partnership with for any kind of co-promotion.
If you make content in Future Commerce, you know it's good because that is a very tough nut to crack. That is always high quality.
It's my thesis for 2024.
That sounds right. I love it. Lenin, last but not least, please.
Yeah. You can reach me at lenin@logicagency.co. I do free audits, so I will personally deep dive into your account, click on every email, get a good understanding of what happens there. And that's where I really tend to uncover a lot of the things that need to change. And, we'll provide it for free. You can take it, do whatever you want with it. You don't need to necessarily work with us, but at least it gives you a good understanding, at least from my end, of what areas should be improved and where you should be focusing on for the near future.
Thank you. I just for what it's worth, I talked to a company who you and I work with last week at NRF specifically, and he mentioned the audit. He said it was awesome. So anyway, just one more vote for all three of you as great resources. All right. Thanks, everyone. This was great. Appreciate your time and appreciate all the insights. Take care.
Thanks for having us. This was fun.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.